Hi everyone. So today I have a very special guest, Reshmi Patel, who runs Key Sounds UK, a piano and music tutoring school based in London. And she has been using both Tutor Cruncher as well as a brand new lesson delivery platform, Bobbin. And I'm really excited for this one because I'm sure she has some brilliant insights into how Bobbin has changed the way she and her tutors work. Welcome, Rashmi. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you for having me as well.
Before we dive in, could you give us like a quick overview of your company?
Yeah, sure. So we run mostly piano lessons. We also run kind of music theory lessons around North London. So we predominantly go to students' homes. Sometimes they come to us as well, but it's predominantly we go to them. And yeah, we have a team of tutors. So we have 12 tutors right now, and we're growing every quarter. We try to add a few more to kind of keep up with the demand of piano at the moment. And yeah, no, we teach for literally everything. So mostly performance preparation because we run a lot of concerts within the year. And then also for exams and just other people who've always wanted to play an instrument and just improve their skills in music because a lot of schools, especially around here, they don't do much music anymore or they don't have any performance type opportunities. Some of them you're allowed to learn an instrument, but it's obviously only in the school time. So in the summer and Christmas holiday, which is a bit longer, people can't really keep up with that progress usually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. And coming to Bobbin, what was the main problem that you were trying to solve before you started using Bobbin? And how has it helped you with that?
I'd say we didn't realize Bobbin would be useful until we used it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we currently have the reports, if I'm looking at the old version compared to what Bobbin does, we had reports which we already use. And there's a feature where we can make them mandatory for our tutors to fill out, which obviously from a school perspective, that's good because people will get their feedback, but also tutors like that just in case they ever did accidentally think they've written a report and then they haven't because they're teaching every day, sometimes it's automatic, they just completely forget. So with Bobbin, it's we still have that notification going off to make sure they can do the report, but it's also now it's quicker for them to not only write the report, but the quality of it is better because I guess obviously the other one's manual completely. So we have to write our own feedback, homework, classwork. And I guess the part for us that really we don't need to do, and that's where Bobbin is different, is the classwork and homework in terms of what we actually covered. So the details, maybe that's more for us to do, but Bobbin obviously fills in all the gaps of what we covered. So then it's just much quicker for us to edit rather than write it all from the beginning. Because we write a lot of detailed reports. We don't really let tutors write just two sentences. So Bobbin writes the whole thing, and it writes a lot more about student engagement and then parents can see that because we do write about student engagement manually usually, but this is like an actual software detecting how they're behaving, which of course helps the parents who are non-musical as well because they can't really see good progress until obviously we say it and they can hear it.
Yeah.
So especially for music, I think it's quite important because they will judge it also by engagement as well. So well, I think most parents would with other subjects as well.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned time saved for tutors as well. Is that something that you've noticed with the
Yes.
new reports, like in terms of time saved, obviously, but also maybe fewer admin complaints, and tutors also enjoying that side of things, being able to have a more detailed report to send out to parents?
Yes, yes, definitely. And yeah, it's just quicker is the main thing because then we can kind of move on to working on whatever the student needs next for the next lesson or next few lessons we plan ahead. So just that time is the most precious time. So writing a detailed report is helpful to have any assistance really. But we're glad that we can edit it. That's probably our favorite feature
Yeah.
because there are certain things we almost don't want the parents to know yet because for example, if they're stuck on something and we've already resolved it in that lesson, we don't really need to mention every detail about how we resolved it in the report because it's kind of over now. So yeah, it's useful to edit and make sure it still makes sense because all the points it mentions work well, and we just need to make sure it makes sense for the parent because we don't want it to be completely different to what we did before.
Yeah.
So just making sure it's structured for them to understand. And I don't think they'd read, like 3 pages of a report every week either.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
maybe once a month, but not. I think weekly parents are too busy, and not that they don't care, but I think one page is easier for them to read, action, and they can process what they read. So same as the student, because it's mostly the student reading it actually,
mm,
because they're the ones who are actioning that what's in the report.
yeah. And do you also have a feel for, how much time it saves your tutors, in terms of reports per lessons?
I'd say some of them are quite slower at technology and some of them are really fast. So it's going to be very different for each person. And they don't mind me saying that. Let's call it about 5 minutes per lesson. And most of our tutors do minimum kind of 8 lessons in a day. So like 40 minutes a day. Yeah,
That's
minimum. Yeah.
incredible.
So that's a big difference. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
for
a
sure.
huge,
Yeah.
huge difference. That's amazing. And you've been using Bobbin for a while now. You were, like I said, one of our first customers who started using Bobbin with the trials, obviously, but also when we officially launched. How has your experience evolved since you first started?
It's definitely got better. Like I said, definitely with the time saving. How has it evolved? I guess there were lots of tweaks that they made on the platform. I'm trying to remember the first version versus now. I think it was just less details of
Yeah,
the feedback, and
it's
now
come a
it's
long way.
everything. Yeah, I can't remember. Honestly, it feels like so long ago. But I know there have been tweaks for sure. I want to say before it was only the topics we covered in the lesson. I think that was the first version I saw anyway. And
Mhm.
then after that, which is what we use now, is topics covered and suggestions for future topics to cover,
Yeah.
student engagement, and potential idea of a report. So obviously that's so much more than what we would expect. So yeah, I think it's been really, really useful. And even the accuracy, by the way, for music, that was obviously like something we didn't know if it was going to be correct. Most of the time it's correct. Obviously, we check it every single time, but most of the time it's still correct. I guess it's also listening to us, so based on what we're saying as well. So there are lots of topics that connect really well together. Some of them don't. So it does actually connect them. So that's good.
What has the experience actually been like for your tutors? The tutors were testing it, in terms of using the whiteboard as well. Has it been useful for them and their students?
Yes, so it's much easier than Zoom, for example, which is probably the main platform everyone uses, Zoom, Google Meet, Skype. We've used all of them. We mostly do use Zoom though. We are kind of mostly on that. So the difference between that and Bobbin is how easy it is for you to upload it can be PDF, it can be image, and it's really easy to change between PDF and image as well because you can't, I don't think you can do that on any of the others. You definitely can't on Zoom without stop sharing and resharing. And it also gives you the ability to hide other tabs because we have so many tabs of music open, so many tabs of folders. So this opens just the file. So, just in case of safeguarding or a student sees something personal, it's much better in that sense as well. And how to draw, use the whiteboard, that's really useful because you can zoom in and out easily. Usually you have to kind of clear the board and then do it again. Or you have to keep undoing your drawings, and it's much easier to kind of move around the page. So we teach theory as well.
Yeah.
So we constantly, the entire lesson, we're using the board. So that's something we just need. Without it, it's definitely slowing down the lesson. Not to the point where the student engagement goes, but because we're so used to it now, we've had to get faster. But with Bobbin, it's obviously easier because it's already there for you. You just can just carry on teaching like fluently. Yeah.
That's really great. And We talked about the lesson report and the AI insights that are generated after a lesson. So things like what was covered, student engagement, areas of improvement, etc. Have you had any feedback from the tutors or the parents, or both, pointing to any specific moments where those insights made a difference?
Yes, so different feedback from both. That's kind of what we focused on in the first 2 months of using them because at that point we were the test phase and we told everybody it's a test in terms of tutors. We told the parents and I mentioned, if anything goes wrong, like I'll fix it, sort of thing. And if it's not working at all, we're not going to carry on using it, of course not. So the tutors basically just said that it was easier to write the reports, it was much faster. It's useful to see at a glance the strengths and weaknesses of each student, especially in group classes, because now we kind of know them because we've taught them for a while, but it's still useful to have that, in your notes as a tutor, especially. And as they move up different levels, because we teach, more advanced levels as they grow older. So just because they weren't stuck on a topic before doesn't mean they aren't now. So it's just useful to have that summary. And if obviously we do regular calls with parents, so if that does come up, it's really easy for us to now just look at that. And usually we would use the reports, but this one's more detailed. Like we would never run out of anything to say because it's literally like a support assistant basically to the lesson. Then the parents just love the engagement aspect of it. Engagement in terms of it will say the student answered majority of the questions, they made some mistakes, and the parents kind of guide them based on the reports and what we've said before on their revision or what they're going over at home.
Hmm.
So if they know they've read in multiple reports, these are their strengths, these are their weaknesses, they'll just remember this is what they're focusing on this month. So it just helps the triangle of teacher, parent, and myself to be stronger, which is
Yeah.
just our aim of everything, really. But parents, I think the reason they're only saying those 3 points and not everything is because they're not musical, so like they can't really understand the musical parts. But is that small for the child? So um, yeah, the children do like it as well, especially I think the Zoom the Zoom in feature, like a certain music is printed really, really small, and it's obviously there's only a certain amount we can always do, um, so that they can see it. So now we can see it even clearer. So I'd say it's like HD,
Yeah.
whereas before it's like they can still see it, but it's not HD. Um, and yeah, I guess the presentation from the tutor's perspective, because that's improved, the students' like engagement is likely to be higher because they don't have to find the document or switch tab or make sure they're not opening something like another tab by mistake. Like it's just already there because you can open new tabs as you're teaching, almost like your own computer on the platform, the Bobbin platform. So that's obviously useful because they can just finish one topic, go to the next tab, or they can kind of scroll down and just continue to teach like that.
Yeah. In terms of the transcripts and lesson recordings as well, have you found that helpful at all while using the app?
Yes, because I guess to be honest, I've used that the least, but I have used it. Um, and similar to the tutors as well. When I say I pretty much mean them because they use it more than me now. I use it sometimes, but they use it more than me. The reason we don't look at it in detail is because we have the summaries and all the other details like highlighted to us, and the rest we kind of remember because we just obviously ran the lesson. That's useful, I guess, for safeguarding. Because if someone was to say something personal or something else, then it's just you literally have a copy of the lesson pretty much. Otherwise, I guess I did spot a few things actually tutors were asking, and I felt like they should ask it slightly differently because I think it would position it differently to the parent or to the student, more to the student. But for example, I'm trying to think of what I read the other day. I think it was something about screen sharing and looking at the documents and how they were uploading them. And I could tell because of what they were saying to the student that they hadn't done it correctly and they thought they were doing it correctly. So something like that, I would never know without the transcript or a video because they already think it's the way I'm doing it's fine.
Yeah.
But I realized from that that they're using it like not in the most efficient way. And because there's more than one way to do things, so I don't think it's the right or wrong way. I think it's just what's easier for you,
Hmm.
which is a good thing because I'm sure every teacher teaches differently as well.
Yeah.
And every student learns differently, so that's an advantage actually. Anything else is, I guess, if there's silences, you can also see that on there, and also the engagement part. So I can see how long it's been since someone's silent, which usually isn't a lot anyway.
Hmm.
There's a little code at the bottom of the transcript that I usually read the most, more than the actual, like I don't really read word for word what's
Of
in
course.
every
Yeah.
lesson because I wouldn't have the time, but also like I don't need to if I've seen the summary and engagement's 10 out of 10, like it's all fine.
Yeah.
But there's a little bar which basically is probably people have probably seen it when they've seen like a video editor, look at different gaps in videos. So it shows you green parts or a positive part where the student's engaging with the teacher and they're engaging with each other and it's going really well. Then you'll see like maybe breaks and parts where there's silence. But to be honest, if I see most of it's green, I don't even bother looking at the transcript because I don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the session analytics really useful,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. You did touch upon this a little bit before, but do you have one or two specific features in Bobbin that stood out to you the most? And also to your tutors and clients, I would say.
Mhm. I can answer it for each person because people watching are probably in different positions. Like probably might be tutors or school owners or want to become even one and might use Bobbin. Um, so parents, for us, it's engagement of the student and interaction with the tutor. I think that's because even if whether it's in person or online, I think that's what parents worry about the most. Even if their child is well behaved, makes them more involved without taking too much time. So I think that's why they really love that. And it's just nice to know, generally in the month if they've read 8 out of 10, 10 out of 10, versus I think if they were seeing 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, I think that's just really important for everyone to know, not just them, because we flag whenever a student behaves differently, whether that's when we're teaching them or even just in between a question, if they're behaving like abnormally, we just raise it to the parent and the student carefully. But this obviously helps us do that in case there's an issue. Usually it's not to do with the lesson at all, it's something outside, but that's something else that helps us identify it without them, because they don't usually verbalize it if they're very young. So it could just be like test week at school or bullying or something. So that engagement, I think it actually is part of safeguarding as well.
Mm.
The tutors, they love it all really. If I had to pick one, I'd say the summary, because that's the summary of the report, because that's the thing that usually would take them slightly longer, but also the way it's laid out, the summary of the report. It's not just kind of random, it's very structured, it's easy to understand as a parent who wasn't in the lesson, potentially, for a student who's very young. So it's very, very, very clear and it's well spaced out. This is a really fussy thing I have, especially to do with design or reports, is if the spacing is too close together, people just see it as too much information and they won't read it. So the spacing between each point is really, really good. In terms of as a school owner, the my favorite features, again, it's hard to pick because I like them all, but probably mine's also actually engagement, I think, if I had to pick one, because I don't know what's happened in the lesson. I'm not there. So if I'm assessing my tutors, I have a really high standard. I don't mind saying. I don't want the quality to ever drop. So this is one of my measures of how I would find out. Not that I think any of them are, suspicious or have anything to hide, but in the future I've in the past I've had tutors like that, and I could in the future. So this is something that's really quick for me to notice if they're not engaged, because other than punctuality, I don't think there's much else. Punctuality, interaction with me, but quality of the lesson to me, if they really care and they're really, really dedicated, they won't mess up their lessons. and they'll ensure their engagement and the results alongside each other are improving. And I can only know that through reading the engagement, really.
I love that. Yeah, the fact that, obviously you're not going to track every single lesson for every single tutor, but the fact that you have it there, if a parent asks about any of the students that you're working with or your tutors are working with, you can just be like, hey, okay, I've got the engagement scores here. I've got the summary here. I've got their strengths and weaknesses here, and I can just give you like a rundown for it. So it's always good to have those tools, even if you don't use it all the time. It's good to have it there. So yeah, thank you for that. Well, we've come to the end of our conversation here today. So my final question for you is, what would you say to another tutoring company that's considering using Bobbin?
I'd say based on the research we've done of other platforms similar to Bobbin, bit of a plot twist there, but we have done research on other ones because we have wanted to use something like this for a while. Because even though parents specifically didn't ask for it, I know that it would be useful for them. And tutors, I've never even thought of the report being that detailed and the strengths and weaknesses. Um, I just didn't think it was possible, if I'm honest. Maybe I'm thinking a bit non-techie when I say that, but because I know obviously the AI exists. But no, I'd say based on our research, it's the best quality platform you can get, not just with what you'll receive in terms of feedback, but also the costs that you pay as, a starting tutor or a small school or a medium to large school as well. I think it's definitely worth the value. And if it's going to improve your retention, which to me, retention links to engagement directly and the quality of your reports, then I don't think it's even a question. If obviously your finances work out, but I do think it's an investment rather than a cost because one of the hardest things to do, especially now with people growing up with technology, is concentration. So if you can't keep them that engaged, then you're going to struggle to keep them as a client. And parents, even if they're doing well, if they see they start to disengage, so many of them, all different types of personalities, will think it's a red flag, and they will consider even before telling you sometimes stopping your lesson. So I think this is like a retention tool as well.
Well, thank you so much, Reshmi, for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been really insightful. And for anyone watching, I really hope you enjoy this conversation. We'll see you next time.